Hello, my name is Austin Belzer, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Austin Media. But before we get into this interview, I want to tell you how you can support my work. The major way I fund my work, whether that be through renting a movie and offsetting those costs, or paying for Zoom, my Patreon helps with that. Patrons like Camila Beulah, Brian Scuttle, Justin Davis of SIFF Pop, Matthew Simpson of Awesome Friday, Tom Blackburn, and more all help make the episodes and interviews like this possible. So thank you to all you lovely patrons out there. If you choose to subscribe, you can do so annually and save 16%. On top of that, if you're not ready to subscribe for whatever reason, you can get a 7-day free trial of every single tier I offer. All of that can be done at patreon.com/AustinBmedia for as little as $1 a month. But with that said, let's get to the interview. Hello, people of the internet, and welcome back to Austin B Media, or whatever you want to call this. Whether you're watching this on YouTube, welcome back to the channel. I also upload this as a podcast, so welcome back to your ears, I guess. But today I am here with Andy Vallentine, director of the Mattachine Family. It's having its New York premiere on the 15th at the 35th edition of NewFest, which I'm covering, and I'll probably have my review out somewhere around there. Premiered at SIFF, Seattle International Film Festival this year, yeah. And just cavalcade of other ones like Frameline, 47, stuff like that. But for those who don't know what the Mattachine Family is about, how would you describe it?
I like to say that it's indie dramedy that follows a gay couple and their journey to parenthood. Yeah, so there's lots of comedic moments. In the film, it stars Emily Hampshire from Schitt's Creek, Heather Mazzarato, Nico Tortorella, Juan Pablo Di Pace. So lots of humorous moments. And then also there are those, tear-jerking moments, as the film progresses and our characters, decide whether or not they want to become parents.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I made notes about it when I was watching it, because I was making the questions and writing the review notes at the same time. Yeah. And it didn't click until just now that even though I wrote this down, Heather Mazzarato was from Princess Diaries, and just now clicked for me. And Nico was from Scream 4, which I just watched a few weeks ago. But the thing I wrote down was it manages to kind of walk this line between, I think I wrote it down like, the comedy feels so natural as do the heartbreak and conversations, is how I wrote it down. I probably had a more whippy, snappy version of that in my head, but yeah. But first of all, thank you so much for coming on. It's going to be a busy week for you, for both of us, as with NewFest. So let's get back into your background a little bit, because this is your not directorial debut. This is your feature debut. For those who don't know, you've directed music videos in the past for people like Charlie Puth, Patrick Starr, Tritonal, and a bunch of other people who I'm sure people know. So I guess my first question is, how did you handle that transition from going to music videos to directing films, and how is that different from each other?
Sure. Music videos is you're trying to cram a lot in within 3 minutes. And so you're also trying to create this like visual, spectacular 3-minute thing that can be cut down into TikTok. And you want to get the viewer's attention as quickly as possible, where like a film, you're allowed to you still want to get the viewer's attention right away, but you like start revealing certain things throughout the movie. And it's like at different moments of the movie, right? Like you don't give everything up front. So like, that was a big learning curve, I think, when, like developing the script and like understanding how I want to shoot it, like all of these things, like they had to happen at the right moment, you know? And so you figure that out, I think, in the development process a little bit while you're shooting, but then also heavily in the post-production phase. There was like with Mattachine, there was many scenes that were moved around that were intended to be over here and ended up being over here just because it felt more natural and it felt better, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about the TikTok thing because as you were talking, I was thinking about what was the last music video I remember, and it feels weird to say this is throwback, but like there was a period in which music videos were shooting at the same place in LA. Oh, was it She's So Mean for Matchbox 20, like the warehouse with the square
Yeah.
lights and everything?
Yeah.
Where it's just like they're just standing the bands are standing around in this, like, empty
Yeah.
warehouse and
Yeah.
with, spill lights and everything like that,
Yeah.
so but yeah, it is interesting to see kind of how that's kinda shifted over the
Mm,
since, I guess, the TikTokification of everything,
yeah. Yeah.
especially, I guess, since I brought it up with Charlie Puth and his kind of workflow now, where what if it sounds like this or that? Yeah, and
Yeah.
then yeah, but we're not here to talk about TikTok. But I guess you talk There's there's a stylistic flair to the Mattachine Family where I wrote it down. There's these narration bits by Nico, and I wrote it down like it was almost like a Polaroid style kind of true crime documentary esque
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, was there any, like, inspiration for that? Like, maybe a specific film, maybe a director you were looking at for that?
I mean, the like idea of, I guess, like the narration sequences with photos, it's not, like, not necessarily like incredibly original. I mean, it's like we looked at Beginners a lot as like a reference,
Okay.
for those moments, but it was it helped us kind of to give like the film like an interesting, like, unique hook, and then B, allowed us to get into the character's mind a little bit more, and then C, it like knowing that the lead character is a photographer, like seeing his photos and seeing stuff like through his lens, it just like lent like a little bit more, like you understood the character a little bit better, So um yeah, and that was like that whole process of like figuring out what that was going to be, it that took a while to like, is it just plain photos on screen? Is it like a gimmicky type of like, is it within a Polaroid frame? Is it like in a film strip type of thing, which is where we ended up landing on? It was like we went through like many iterations of being like, well, what's cheesy? This is too cheesy. This is not, okay, it can be a little bit cheesier, but yeah.
Yeah, and there's a certain line which I won't spoil, near the end of the film where he talks about how he shoots pictures that was
uh,
really, kind of neatly ties everything
yeah.
together because you talk about, through his lens. I mean, he's literally through his lens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. He
but
feels it's like a photographer when they take those photos. It's like we were trying to say that even though it's like he's not in the photo, it's like he's still part of that story because he's participating and he is like capturing that moment, And so in
yeah,
his mind, it's like this is something that he wants to remember. It's like, what was it, Friends, or what was it like? No, it was, I'm trying to remember what show it was. Like, it was something about like, it was like, oh, they took like a Polaroid, it was like a little gimmicky thing where they like took a thing, they were just, they didn't have a Polaroid, but they just went like this so
mm.
that they knew, like, they would remember the moment. I don't remember what that's from, but anyway, something like that. Anyways.
I had a similar moment with one of the quotes in the movie. Sometimes stairs are just stairs was one I wrote down.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like,
I
where do I
honestly,
remember that from?
yeah. Yeah, that's a fun. I like that line a lot because I think that there's like within movies, there is like a lot that you can analyze and like look deep into certain moments, and then some other times it's just stairs. Like it's the simple reason, which
Yeah.
I like cinema just in general, because you can get really deep in one in some specific area that the filmmaker intended this like very specific thing that's you know, the subtext is like hidden within, or it's just like it's red because there was a red shirt on set. You know, it's like you don't know what, you know, what the intentions are. But anyways.
Yeah, and I guess going back to the seeing things through his lens, I don't think it's entirely lost on me that this movie is about family, and you made this with your husband, Danny, I believe.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so I guess I want to ask, what was that process like collaborating together on the story, and how did you maybe put yourself into this?
Yeah. So the movie was kind of based on real conversations that Danny and I had had about fatherhood. You know, we had dated for a while, and then we got married, and then it was like, you know, I think that Danny had wanted a child as soon as possible. You know, it was like he was ready to become a dad, and I was like, not necessarily against the idea, but I was like, I feel like this is something like down the road, and especially with LGBTQ plus folks to have children, it is like a planning thing, right? Like it is
Yeah,
not for the majority of us, you know, not in case for everybody, but for the majority of us, it's like a financial planning, whether that's adoption or surrogacy or foster care or whatever that is. Like you have to be set up to be able financially to be able to do those things. So I think that in my mind too, as being like the more like practical person, you know, the practical spouse, that I was like, okay, well, it's got to be later when we like actually start making money, and not when I'm making, you know, $300 directing, editing, producing a music video. But it was like to work with Danny, you know, on that was just incredible. And, you know, we really put in a lot of our relationship into the lead characters, as well as like a lot of our friends and our lived experiences are all like sprinkled throughout the film, you know. So it is fun to, when we watch the movie back, or when we're at a screening, or we're with, you know, with our friends, you know, who come to a certain screening, depending on what city we're in, it's like, oh, this moment's from Remember When in high school, or whatever that is, you know. There's a lot of that like fun little nuggets sprinkled throughout.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially some of the stories that were told, I really felt like came from maybe personal experience. But yeah, and I guess getting to that, something that really, and I don't know why I keep talking about this movie so much, because I keep bringing it up in interviews. I don't know if you saw it at last Tribeca, the one that just happened. Our son kind of dealt with this similar thing where we're seeing a lot of more mainstream movies where couples are already married instead of that kind
Yeah.
of typical thing where, oh, this is the meet cute, although that is still happening and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just kind of wanted to, I guess, ask how you wanted to portray a kind of married queer couple in terms of like, it's kind of been, in my opinion, new, or at least put in the mainstream this year. Yeah, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that like a lot of queer cinema is like based on the idea of like accepting identity, or it is the coming out phase. So it is like, which those are like crucial, you know, crucial aspects that all LGBTQ people go through. But that's what had been our focus in media for so long, and in film and TV, you know. So we liked the idea of Mattachine Family, which it kind of like pushed past some of those things. And yes, we like touch on like accept, like a little bit of accepting identity, and well, like
Yeah,
honestly, like what identity is in terms of like being a gay dad, like what is that like. But you know, we wanted to like push past that and like see a, you know, a gay couple that were, you know, for the most part, like, you know, like you said, there's like the meet cute at the beginning, but then for the most part, like they're together, like in a relationship, you know, and are having to deal with big questions on whether or not they want to become parents or not, you know. And these aren't necessarily things that we have seen previously. And of course, we've had like like representation is great, and
yeah,
we've had Modern Family, but Modern Family wasn't necessarily like asking those like hard questions. Like it wasn't, it kind of went, because it's a comedy show. So it went past kind of the bigger, the big questions, the big fights for just everything else. So yeah.
Yeah, it didn't really get into the interior spaces is kind of what I'd refer to it
Yeah.
as is
Yeah.
where, and I guess where I come at with the comparison with Our Son is it also dealt with, for those who hadn't seen it, I feel like I'm plugging this all the time now, even though it doesn't have distribution, but it dealt with Billy Porter and, oh gosh, the new guest, Luke Evans, yeah, a divorce, which is, I I'll be honest, I hadn't really seen that before, and I think you're doing something similar here where it's like, oh, you don't really have to see that, how they, um, met, or this is how
Yeah.
they are now, and here's the, because, and I don't think this is spoilers, um, it starts with Arthur already being, what would the proper term be? Given away?
Like going back to his home. So at
Yeah.
the movie, it's like we're met our two characters, Nico Tortorella and Juan Pablo Di Pace, Oscar and Thomas, where they had a foster child for a year, and so they were just fostering the child for the year. So it's his foster child Arthur goes back to his mom. So and then there's all of those complicated feelings of what that means.
Yeah, and I guess going back to, it keeps zigzagging, but we were talking about stories earlier, and there's this character. Oh gosh, what is his name? The person who lives with Nico's character, the best friend. Gosh,
Oh, Jamie.
Jamie. There's like, there. I guess what I'm getting at is there's different. It's not just Oscar and Thomas. There's also points where you go into a lesbian mom party and kind of go into, I think, all, not all the sectors, but I think you really kind of go out of your way to go, hey, here's the entire spectrum of, there's this one line, I wish I wrote it down, but I think Thomas says, why do I have to be gay? Why can't I just say I have sex with men?
Yeah.
I think it's like later on, but I guess I just kind of wanted to get into how you want to. I know this is a really cliche question, but to talk about the different sectors of, here's how different, gosh, sorry, here's how all these different people interact with one another. Like
Yeah.
here's how Thomas interacts with this lesbian couple. I forget their names. I see the actors' names and then I forget.
It's good. Yeah. I think that like one of the other kind of big themes of the movie that we wanted to hit was the idea of chosen family. And
Yeah.
within the queer community, whether or not you're rejected from your actual family, like no matter what, you tend to form a chosen family. So you have that like core group of people that they're your friends, but you consider them family. So, we wanted to explore that as well and see how the idea of parenthood affected all of those chosen family members. So, throughout the movie, Thomas, Nico's character, like encounters and like hangs out and has like, emotional scenes with his chosen family, and we get to kind of experience, a little bit of what that looks like as a friend, as the best friend, so Nico is there. So Thomas is there as like the shoulder to cry on when necessary, as you are with anybody in your family or chosen, or if chosen family.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and sorry for the long wind up and
Good,
everything.
you're good. It's yeah.
To be completely transparent, I'm still figuring out how, like, this is kind of, recently this year has been kind of a learning experience for me, in really just kind of trying to sit with learning, okay, how can I represent how can I talk about LGBTQ plus cinema as somebody who is by all means straight? It's It's kind of that thing that where I've just kind of been trying to learn over the past few months, especially with our son. I was trying to learn terminology
Yeah.
and that. So if at any point I'm just
No, not at
saying
all. I haven't noticed at all.
anything that I need cut out, you can just yell cut, because I don't want to ask like cliche questions. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to ask stuff where, an AI could have come up with it or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think the Mattachine family is a really interesting one, because kind of going back to the narration, it kind of almost breaks the movie up into chapters.
Yeah.
I, the note I made was it kind of makes it almost like a TV show in a sense
Yeah.
of like,
Yep.
hey, here's the end of that one arc. Let's go to this
Yep.
next arc.
Yep.
And I guess I just wanted to talk about how you approach writing that, how you approach kind of structuring it out, because it's not a 3-act structure.
Yeah. I think it's like I looked at, well, I can't really like, I mean, when Danny and I like set out to write the movie, like we wrote it in the, and Danny wrote the majority of it. I did more of the story, but it was like we put it together as like a traditional movie, I guess, of
Yeah.
like how it unfolds. And this is when this beat should happen, this is when this beat should happen. And then when we got it in editing, we realized that like some of those emotional beats were in the wrong spot in terms of of getting the audience on the character side and what that all looked like. So it's interesting that you thought of it as chapters, because I also like debated whether or not putting like chapter markers in the film and literally writing like chapter 1 this, which is like a device that like filmmakers do, sometimes to
Creator.
like yeah, to like break things up or to do interesting things for it. But I ended up not doing that. But still, like, so I broke them up into these moments, so it is, the first 20 minutes, like this is what this establishes. These are the scenes that we hit that have the like emotional beats necessary to sustain like the audience attention for these 20 minutes, and then we move on to the next 20 minutes. So yeah, good analysis.
Yeah, because I tend to overthink things. I was just talking about this on the Creator podcast, where I was talking about over analyzing things. I always talk about I figured out the ending to Arrival 10 minutes into the
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
So I'm just over analyzing a lot of things that
Yeah.
probably nobody even cares about but me. Like, I was editing a podcast, that same podcast the other day, and there was less than a frame extra audio in DaVinci Resolve on the
Mhm.
audio than the video. But I was like, nobody will notice if I just delete this millisecond.
Yeah.
uh, but if you do, yeah. But anyways, yeah, I yeah, it's a good movie. I hope people check it out at NewFest. I think you're playing virtually,
Yes, we're
so
playing. Yep.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we're playing on Sunday the 15th at
Mhm.
1 o'clock in New York. But then also virtually, I believe, for like an additional week. It could
Yeah,
be
something
longer.
like that. That's
But yeah,
always kind of how it works.
yep.
But yeah, I hope people check it out, especially if you just, like, I don't know, maybe you have a free weekend and you just want to watch a bunch of movies. You can go check it out. I'll have the link to all the New Fest movies and virtual lineup in the description, all the places I post this. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, check it out.
but
I'll be there, and then as will Nico Tortorella will be there as well for a little Q&A after the film.
but really quick, I wanted to ask before we go. So so what's the so you've got New Fest, and then what do you got coming up after for Mattachine Family or whatever else you're working on?
So we have this weekend, we have NewFest, and then we're actually in Newport Beach on Friday in California. And then next week we're opening Outshine, which is the LGBTQ film festival in Miami. And after that, I believe we have the Melbourne Queer Film Festival. And then I think maybe a few more in the spring, but for the most part, that's it. So we've done this will be, I think NewFest will be like our 30th film festival that we've been in. So yeah, it's like it's more coming to an end, I guess, with this weekend's kind of I feel like this next week with those 3 film festivals are kind of our last big week, especially I think that these will be some of the last ones that I'll be attending. And then hopefully Mattachine Family, we're still having active conversations with a number of distribution companies. So we're hoping to like have a bigger announcement, I think in the next like 2 months or so, of when everybody can go check it out.
Yeah, if I don't know if movie people are going to be there, movie sales representatives, but I would think those would fit right in their wheelhouse.
Right.
Yeah, it just seems like, I don't know, it just seems like something movie would release, and maybe like do a little movie notebook article on it and everything would be
Yeah.
nice. They've been releasing a lot of good movies, and I think they should pick it up, if just based on what I've got from the
Yeah.
movie itself. I hope people check it out, whether it's virtual. I hope people actually go to NewFest physically, because I know I've covered all these festivals virtually from pretty much right where I'm sitting now, but I don't know. I kind of want to go to festivals again when it's a little less crazy. When it's a little less crazy schedule wise. Maybe AFI Fest. Anyways, that's not the point, but I hope people check this out. I'll have links to everything, trailer, ticket links, everything in the description of the YouTube video. Let's see, Spotify for podcasters, article, you name it. It'll all be in there. But yeah, thanks so much, Andy, for joining me and taking so much time out of your busy schedule today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for chatting as well and watching the film. And for anybody watching or listening, you can follow Mattachine Family on Instagram or Andy Vallentine on Instagram with 2 L's, where I will constantly be posting about the movie until the end of my life. I feel like I will now just, it will be every year I will be posting about Mattachine, and this year I just post about it every day. But Mattachine Family's Instagram is where you'll find all the latest news and other interviews and stuff about the movie. So go check it out.
Yeah, I'll have links to that in the description as well. You on Threads yet?
We are on Threads, yeah.
I'll
Mattachine
include
Family.
that in the description too.
Yeah, cool.
But
All
until
right,
next
great.
time.